may you do the honors, and then we can wrap this up.
Okay. All right, so let's, I guess, as always, let's lay down some facts. So on January 3rd, 2026, approximately 2 a.m. local time in Caracas, Venezuela, Operation Absolute Resolve began, and explosions were heard all across northern Venezuela. U.S. forces bombed the infrastructure, their defense infrastructure, so that they could get their airplanes through. I mean, the air defenses through, and then they apprehended President Nicolas Maduro and his wife at his compound.
Yeah.
Um, so they were captured. The raid was carried out by the U.S. Army Delta Force and CIA intelligence. Donald Trump, in response, announced that after it was all done, he said he would run the country until it was safe, proper, and judicious transition of power. Then Trump later posted a photo of Maduro aboard the U.S. Iowa Jima. He was blindfolded, wearing soundproof headphones and a Nike gray sweatshirt. Um, of course, casualties followed. Venezuela officials confirmed much of Maduro's security detail was killed in the process. Cuba announced that 32 Cuban nationals died in combat during this operation. And then shortly after, oil entered the story. So Trump declared that the U.S. would take control of Venezuela oil reserves. American companies would be invited to invest billions to refurbish the industry. And just for a fact, Venezuela holds about 303 billion barrels of crude. So that's roughly 20% of the world's proven reserves. That's the basic facts of that situation.
Mhm.
How you guys want to think and feeling about that? Anybody want to
Well,
speak first?
I mean, history shows removing the leader doesn't really resolve the forces that put him there. That that there, America. Take that for for what it's worth. Um, let's see. What I got is, the vicious attacks from the Trump administration because they were vicious attacks, and for what I understand, it was not. Congress did not give it a go, so he actually went against regulations on that, and he said that it wasn't a war, but from my research, anything that's on the ground when it's ground striking, combat from the ground, that's considered war. Over 100 casualties, including military troops, were killed, right? And then the news going to say there were no casualties. Now we get reports that it was 100 people killed, including casualties. Okay, um, they paint the narrative of him being a narco dictator. You know,
Narco
they had the,
terrorists.
the narco terrorist, a dictator. They got to dehumanize you in order to feel right from stealing from you. You get what I'm saying? And that's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Um, what else? The real target to me, from the research I gathered up, the real target was China. That was the real target because China was buying oil from Venezuela. And China's so strategic when Trump, snatched the oil up illegally. They figured that they could have some type of dominance over China, dealing with in that capacity. But China, being very strategic, they said, okay, we ain't got to buy oil from you, Trump. We're gonna go right to Iran and buy the oil for the same price. For the same price. The little bit of notes I do have here. Let's see. If by America hijacking the oil, right? Um, they don't understand that that causes Russia to grow, Iran to grow, and also they expect for China to pass the dollar. You know what I'm saying? Due to adversity, they wanted to pressure Venezuela to see how the world will react to them bullying people over resources. But if they're not successful at doing it, then they don't they no longer look at as the world power given that. You get what I'm saying? So when you have um, Russia going to Iran to buy the oil, and you have China going to Iran to buy the oil, now in my opinion, does that make Trump efforts backfire? So that's all I want to say, and then I'll pass it on, and I'll get back to my notes.
So one thing I wanted to point out, and I Adam L hit on it a little bit, but there's competing narratives and competing truths all over the place. You see what I'm saying? US has their own narrative, Venezuela has their narrative, and then international law has their narrative. So US of course insists that this was not an occupation, not a war, not a regime change. They insisted that Maduro was a narco terrorist and fugitive, and that this was a surgical law enforcement operation. And then, of course, the Venezuelan people says that it was a legal armed attack. They accuse U.S. of bombing sovereign territory, killing civilians, kidnapping a sitting president, and he named the motive directly, or the Venezuelan people named it directly, which is the natural resources, which we all knew. And then the international law or the legal says this. It was legal scholar Bill Burke, white, was very blunt about this, and he says that this action was illegal under international law in every imaginable way. There was no UN Security Council authorization. There was no self-defense justification. None. So the one thing that is important is to point out is like, yeah, like I said, these competing narratives, but which of these versions become permanent? Which of these and what power in the power that I guess which apparatus has the ability to make this permanent, if that makes sense. What who decides which version becomes permanent and which is amplified?
Anybody want to give it a go? Skills? Anybody? Gov? Jan?
I mean, generally speaking, right, isn't history normally written by those who won the war? If we look at our textbooks and things of that nature, right, it's written from the perspective of whoever took over. I mean, we all know the truth and we all know what really happened, but as far as which story is going to stick, I would assume that America's side of the story is probably going to stick just because of how powerful a country that this is. But we
I
all
want
know what really happened.
But what's I think skills. One thing that's interesting about this time around compared to any of the, I mean, this is not new in like these type of operations that America has conducted. But the one really unique part about this operation compared to like Iraq invasion or Afghanistan invasion or Libya, all of those different things. This is happening in real time. This is being transmitted all over social media, and that does change the context because the facts can't be tightly guarded. They can't be tightly controlled. So even if America has their version of the truth, the internet kind of helps. It's like a balancing act. You know what I mean? Like Venezuelan people can put up their stuff, and UN can put up their stuff, and then the internet has the ability to sort through this evidence and so on and so forth, and come up with their own approach.
But here's the double standard, the hypocrisy of President Trump. He is locking someone up for narco terrorism, but he just freed a recent drug lord.
Yeah, yeah,
Help it make sense. So it's not about the democracy and the freedom of the people. It's about oil. It's about power. You know what I'm
100%.
saying? That's what it's about. And to piggyback on what you said, Ty, they can't just write their own narrative up. It's not 1989 no more with Noriega. You know what I'm saying? There's
Right.
there's more information out there, if you will. But my thing is, whether the information is available or not, they got to the point where they're just bullies. What are you going to do about it? You know what I'm saying? Because when you have what is the people, the UN, or who's the people who supposed to be like the national police of the world? You know what I'm
UN.
saying? Yeah, they're at his, in my opinion, they're at his weakest point because Netanyahu is supposed to be a war criminal too and have a warrant, but you don't see Trump going into Israel and snatching him up, do you?
Mm-mm.
Come on now,
Yeah.
you know.
And then the other thing, even though I think like with the internet, it does kind of help with things, but I think it's important just to point out the language itself, how all of it is the surgical law enforcement hides a bombing campaign and the violation of a country's sovereignty, or describing saying kidnapping obscures Maduro's own authoritarian record, or him being an illegitimate leader. Uh, they talk with moral certainty about this, and there's no verified proof, or him being a narco terrorist. There's no evidence for this. But the good thing about propaganda, good propaganda does just that. It makes you it sparks more outrage and emotion, and it resonates emotionally with people. But it doesn't really demand any proof, but that it's enough to get people on the board. And you see people online like I it's annoying. Like I get people just respond to those things, and they'll repeat these things. They say America, well, we love our America, land of the free, land of the brave. And
Yeah,
it's
I just think they're just small minded. They're small minded people.
yo,
Like
I'm like, yo,
this
what's
what I
going
gathered, right?
on here?
This is what I gather. I said Venezuela becomes a test case. Rather, USA sanctions still work. If Venezuela pressure fails, if the government survives, if the oil keeps flowing, if China maintains access, then the credibility of American economic power collapse.
I don't think this has anything to do at all. I don't think oil is the main thing. I think it's more about the rare earth minerals. The race that the world is in right now is AI and all this robotics and everything like that.
Good point.
All this old school. This is 70s and 80s talk. You know what I mean? In this current age and this current generation, the money's gonna get made when they all the data centers that they building to keep this whole to get this whole AI running. That's where everything going. Venezuela got a lot of that too. You know what I mean? So you put those things in a mix. This is what's going on, and it's not only the United States doing it. The other world powers are doing the same thing, consolidating from the other countries that can't defend themselves, and they taking it. And this is what's
Small
going on.
countries like Nicaragua,
That's what I'm
they
saying.
kind of extract oil from them as well
Yeah,
too.
but what I'm saying. The major powers, United States, China, the big ones, Russia,
I
they
mean
doing it.
Nigeria. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
but see, yeah, Nigeria not making no money off no oil. You know what I mean? They struggling with that. You know, they got a lot of oil too. They not making money off of it because
Yeah.
see, they done dropped the price down so low. That was on purpose. Remember, they was trying to do that to get rid of OPEC.
Hmm.
That was the whole game plan behind that. So now that the oil prices are so low, countries aren't making money off of that. So now what they trying, they scrambling for the next thing. So this is geopolitics. You're getting a lot of powers getting consolidated. Rumors about them trying to go buy Greenland. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of stuff going on, and you're gonna start to see a lot of these things. All these nations, it's going to start to consolidate. We're going to see things starting to come together. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where you got just one world. You know what I mean?
So what do you feel about Abraham Torre and some of his colleagues chasing out the Europeans because they're now gathering their own resources,
I mean, that's
and Nigeria is a play on Trump and Trump behalf to get closer to Abraham and Torre.
and there's
You know
other
what I'm
ones
saying?
that,
It's always about colonization as well.
of course, and they're not. And see, the thing is, right now, the world powers are jockeying to see which one's going to have the control of it. No one's jockeying to say we're going to be friends and brotherhood. Don't get fooled by that part either. You know what I mean? It's going to be who's going to run it, who's going to take it for their thing. So that's when China was running through for the longest. You know what I mean? Russia, they always be playing their little games, trying to get into the game. Here come United States, we can be a rescuer too. Okay, y'all can trust us. You know what I mean? So it's
Hmm.
that game going. So when they come in there, they say, "Look, we'll do this for you, but hey, we get access to this." People go to where they get the diamonds from. Can I get some? Nah, you can't do that because all them been contracted out. So they don't own nothing. They getting pennies on a dollar. You can see blood on, like I said before. Blood can be seen in the satellites on the ground from so much blood that's being shed right now in 2025, 2026. You know what I'm saying? Blood can be seen. That's not happening like that in the other continents.
Yeah, because politics has no politics only cares about margin. They don't care about anything else. You
Right,
know what
it's
I'm
about the
saying? There's no
power.
room
It's
for
about
that.
the
You
power.
know, there's no room for politics. They only care about the margin. They only care about the profits. You know what I'm saying? And that's why China made that play on America because Trump thought that he can trap China and Russia if he hijacked the oil. But they went to Iran, which made it like, Trump like, okay, now I'm stuck with a whole bunch of oil.
Yeah,
Know? That's like a street play. It's like I hate to put these scenarios, but it's like your block making more than anybody else. Or, in order for me to run B Street, I got to take over B Street and A Street and B Street. I got to take over C Street because I know that the pipeline run through C Street. So by me taking over C Street, now A and B Street got to submit to my prices. But little lo and behold, A and B went with D and say,
yeah,
we don't care about y'all politics. We only care about margin. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
in a
I,
sense, it backfired.
and the one thing I think about this situation is this sets a terrible, not that we ever had the best record or we were completely free in the past from this, but this sets a terrible precedent for the world. Like this could very well start World War III and other major conflicts because like like justice is important and international UN, it's important that truth doesn't collapse, that integrity doesn't collapse, or any of those types of things collapse because once they collapse, once one person sees it's not distributed fairly, right? One person says, "Well, America went in and just did that. Well, we can do it too with the other major powers and so on and so forth." And then you hear things like like have some integrity. Like they talk about we care about the democratic the democratic
Process.
opposition and the Venezuela people, but you ignore the opposition leader, which was Maria Corina Machado, and the elected president Armando Gonzalez, and Trump dismissed publicly and then confirmed that he had contact with a regime insider. And it's like, yo, do you actually care? Because if you actually care, wouldn't you go with the opposition, that the person that was opposing, Maduro's? But it was never about that. That's just background noise to you. You just and as the government, you just want to go in and use your great power or whatever you want to call it to redraw the system. And even in the States, we are propaganda is running strong in terms of like reporters who challenge like the narrative. They're branded as Maduro apologists and or if you have you know socialist mismanagement that they call that, like what's happening in there, it's like, oh, this is a socialist and this is they're mismanaging stuff here and blah blah blah. It's a lot.
I can't trust the news, man. I was
You
on
can't.
YouTube. One reporter, one
It's
guy asked him, he said, are there any casualties on the ground? Was there any casualties, on the ground? He said, all our troops are safe.
No,
He
no,
said, I didn't ask you that question. Is there any casualties on the ground?
uh,
they
He
don't
said,
listen to
well,
the
I
news.
can't answer that, but all our troops are safe and home.
uh,
So I don't know.
uh.
Right.
And it's like, man, the outrage is selective and everything. The language is very manufactured.
Right.
It's like,
And
yo,
see,
what can you?
right, they playing off the U.S. This is the war on drugs. They're playing on that game, the war on drugs. They used that title. They came up with that in '71.
Uh,
And to see this kind of like the same thing. It's like the same play. They did the same thing when crack came over. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? They
The same thing they did to Noriega,
yeah.
they doing to this guy.
They doing the same. It's like the same play. They was able to do it successfully. Then they gonna they gonna say this is not the precedence. We've done this before.
Yeah. They try to say that he rigged the election and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Again, when Trump accused Biden of rigging the election, right? Why wouldn't so this is the question I pose, right? And follow me on this, guys. Right? The double standards. We all know that our, you know, the people in the White House, this presidential campaign is not the clearest and not the upright stand, not the righteous, upstanding presidential uh, 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 you know, people in office, right? We have a lot to say about Trump, right? We have a lot to say about, his felons and him breaking different rules and regulations and stuff like that. What if someone came into America and snatched Trump up?
Mm.
What if the wheels turn that way? How would people feel then?
Call it terrorism.
They call it terrorism. But what they just displayed, from my understanding, is a form of terrorism.
It's terrorism.
And I don't think that no one, and that's my opinion, I don't think no one should support something like that. I don't think we should be the mindless people online talking about good for our country and stuff like that. And that's another story for another time. But, it's just mind boggling, man, that they could just paint a narrative, then dehumanize a certain person or a certain group of people, and then justify going in there and doing whatever they want, breaking all national laws, and saying, okay, this is what we did, or who's going to do anything about it?
Yep.
And to me, if we're looking at it from a material standpoint, that is true power.
Do what you want.
Unfortunately, it's evil power, but it's a true power. Skills Jam, if y'all want to add on to this, then we can call it a night, bro.
I don't have anything useful to add.
Okay. Skills.
Likewise, I think y'all did that for.
Okay. All right. Sick Cuz, where can they find you?
Governorsmansion.net. The governorsmansion.net.
Skills Mega, where can they find you?
D Skills Harris on IG.
Where can they find you, Jam?
Jammer _1 on Instagram.
And Ty, you off the grid, right?
I'm off the grid.
And where can they find you, Quan Bizzle?
Anywhere but hell, hopefully. So I'm just getting nostalgia music on.
You gotta have a comic relief, man.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. You can find Guess I Said on all platforms. We're on X, but I deleted my account for whatever, mental health reasons. But you can find us on X, you can find us on TikTok, you can find us on YouTube, you can find us just about everywhere. All right, family, I enjoyed this conversation. Always a pleasure. The battle of minds, and it was a great segment tonight, man. We all did our thing, man. And I'm just trying to grow as a journalist, man. You know what I'm saying? I got to learn how to read off the cue cards a little better, but it's all good. You know what I'm saying? All right, fellas. I'll catch y'all next week. And Skills, get that set up, man. So Jam.
Oh, I got you. We running that shit next week.
So Jam could be a witness to me, you know. Jam, you shouldn't be saying this, man. Hey, look, that's a quote off of Boys in the Hood, where Ice Cube's like, he shouldn't be saying this. Get him out of here. That's gonna be Jam. That's what I'm gonna tell Jam. You shouldn't be saying this. You shouldn't be saying this.
Since we quoting movies and shit, you know what I mean? I'm gonna quote Harlem Nights. Don't take this ass whipping personally. You know what I mean? So
how you said the Skill? How you said the Skill? Said, you better be ready.
Right.
Y'all gonna be some rich niggas. All right, fellas, man. Enjoy y'all weekend, man. I'll catch y'all later, man. Peace.
All right, peace.
All right, peace.
What I call it?
The volcano from out of Iceland. They come to take over the rap game like the white man. Hiller than Hitler, photobomb at Yahoo, read it on missile. Watch me do it like the Pointer Sisters. Slip arsenic in your corn liquor. Two bigger L's than the Aubrey nigga. From Pappy Mason to Pastor Mason, the church was vacant. Preacher with Bobby trapped in the basement. I'm laughing, just imagine the Sleepy Beauty had herpes.